What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It's the Week 11. It's Week 11, right? God, how the time flies.
Amazing.
11 best bets joining me to try and stay hot. 2 good weeks in a row for everybody, right? Pete Prisco and RJ White. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
It's on.
It's going. Pretty pumped to 2 consecutive weeks in the black. To the black or the red? What's good? Black is good, right?
Black.
You can tell I'm very good at accounting. I went 4-2. You guys both went 5-1. RJ now 35-22-2. Scorching record on the season. If you want his plays, the second he puts them in, get the best number possible. Go to sportsline.com/join. Use promo code White. Get your first month for $1. Pete 34-23-2 on the season, and I am trying to fight my way back above 500. 29-31-2.
Let's not rush by that Pete record too. That Pete record is awesome. I know that I'm leading by 1, but generally that Pete record is going to be like leading the 3 of us by 8 games at this point. Like,
yeah,
that's a really good record.
Yeah,
we've had a good year.
Mm-hmm.
We really have.
You two have had a very good full year. I've had a very nice fortnight.
Correct.
Yeah, I was just really trying to get the Sportsline promo in for you, RJ. By the way, 2 things I've noticed on our awesome CBS Sports research doc. Underdogs are 57% against the spread this season, 83, 62, and 4. Also at 57% unders, 85, 63, and 2. That's the highest percentage of unders hitting through 10 weeks since 1991.
Look at the scoring. Scoring's down, man.
For sure. But I mean, I guess the question was going to be to you guys. By the way, underdogs of 4 or more points are 48-26 against the spread, 65%, the best since week 10 of 1999. And straight up, they're actually hitting a 35% clip, which is the best through week 10 since 1987. Pretty crazy. Is there anything to glean from that, RJ or Pete, or is that just sort of a lot of parity?
There are no good. There are no good teams. I mean, they say it every year. There's no good. Right now, there are. How many good teams are there legitimately in the NFL right now?
6.
I mean, you're counting the Vikings. I mean, you got to give them credit for what they did, but they beat 3 backup quarterbacks, and every game comes down to the wire.
All right, so this is a question we asked on the Monday night recap pod of Eagles and the Commandos. It's like not so much like what teams do you believe in, but how many teams do you actually trust? Because the only team I trust in the NFL is the Chiefs, and that's simply because they have Mahomes and Andy Reid, who's done it. And we know he can be creative, and he's won big games, and obviously he's had some, time mismanagement or clock mismanagement stuff. But like,
if the Bills don't fumble the snap the other day, you don't trust them anymore.
The lack of trust of the Bills is solely related to Josh Allen's arm or his elbow.
Yeah, I trust the Bills still. But again, there's not a big class of good teams. The Niners are going to end up being one of the better teams by the time it's all said and done.
RJ's preseason NFC Super Bowl pick, actually.
Yeah, well, I don't know about pick. Definitely one I bet on. But, you're just looking for value when you bet those kind of things. So if you would ask me who would I pick to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC before the season, I might not have said San Francisco, but definitely thought they had the best value at 20-1 to win the whole thing.
Well, and they do. I agree with you. They look like a team that's on the up and up. So nothing, it's just parity and
it's that. I think if you look at that, I can't quote the number exactly, but if you look at that run of unders and how big the unders are cashing, I want to say last year is in that top 2 or 3 discussion too. So it seems like this thing where teams are running the ball better. I think Daniel Jeremiah had a tweet today saying that he thinks that run stuffing defensive tackles are going to be a priority in the draft this year because these teams are just cranking out these good runs. And when you run the ball more, there's fewer possessions in a game. You grind the clock more, the clock's moving, and scoring is down. So I think that also contributes to it. The fact that rushing has really taken off this year more than it has in the past contributes to the lower totals.
Me and Brady had a nice conversation about that 2 years ago, and both of us sat there and we predicted, or it might have even been 3 years ago, with everybody going to smaller, faster guys, teams were going to evolve back into running the football. It was inevitable because you're little. I mean, you look at the teams that can't stop the run; they're little. They get pushed around. The Eagles without Jordan Davis in there, they're small. Their linebackers are, White's a blown up safety. They're little. The Chargers, they're little. These teams are small, and so they're getting pushed around. And eventually, I don't know if you're still going to put great value on a run-stuffing defensive tackle, but you're going to find those guys in the second and third round where I think if you can find one, you can. And here's the other thing. Take a guy who's not a great pass-rushing defensive end and put 40 on him. Make him a defensive tackle. That's, some of the better ones back in the day were blown up guys that, some of them were linebackers who were blown up into defensive tackles.
To RJ's point, the highest under hit rate, I believe, since 1990 was 1991, 64%. 2022, this year, obviously, 57%. Last year, 2021 was 55%, and 1996, 55% as well. Just to throw one more possibility about it in there with the lack of scoring, we are sort of in like this transitional phase for quarterbacks where, we've lost a lot of Hall of Famers have left the game. Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Eli, etc. And then you have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers not playing well on their way out. And then some of these younger guys are sort of trying to figure out what the actual hierarchy is. So
yeah, the quarterback play hasn't been great. And here's the biggest problem, the biggest one. You can talk about all the run game and the size advantage and being able to push people around. The biggest disadvantage are the offensive lines in the NFL. They're awful. And the pass rushers are getting better and faster and more athletic. And the offensive lines, they come out of college, all they do is pass and tap. They don't, and they're not schooled in the art of pass protection anyways. You don't have enough time to learn how to pass protect because all you're doing is install because the time has been condensed so much. And guys get hurt and the unit all of a sudden goes out the window. You have to have guys. Think about all the teams that have lines where guys have been hurt and watch what happens to them. They become a disaster. So
Cowboys and the Rams, decent example.
I mean, there's no depth in the NFL when it comes to offensive line play. There's only so many big physical players who can do that, and that really impacts how teams play.
All right, quick trivia question before we get into the games. Can you name the only team that has clinched their preseason win total through 10 weeks of the season?
I know it, but we'll see if Pete knows it.
Clinch, they're above it? They've already won. Anyway.
It's an over because it's impossible to clinch it.
It's already been decided. Well, I mean, it's possible.
The Giants have to be that, right?
All right, City, wrong team. The Jets. The Seahawks over, Giants over.
The Giants win total.
7. Giants are up to like 7.5. Yeah, most places.
Yeah, Jets 5.5. The Seahawks over, Giants over, Packers under, Bucks under, and Rams under could all clinch this week based on what happens in those games. Let's get to the games. We've got you're excited for is it a thunder snowmageddon? What do we got? This is a tough one because there is you don't really hear the NFL throw this out when it comes to snow very often, but the NFL has sort of floated the idea that this game between the Cleveland Browns and the Buffalo Bills, scheduled to take place in Orchard Park, with the Bills as an 8-point favorite and a total of 42, could be moved to Detroit because of the massive.
I don't get it. I don't get. I mean, you don't move the game for snow. That's look. You don't have people come, but play the game. Do the field, get the bulldozers in there, get the field cleared, go play the game. I don't understand that. That's an advantage for Buffalo to play in their home building. You shouldn't be able to force to move that game. Now, if you're worried about resources for traffic and everything else, I get it. Well, don't let fans come to the game. We've seen those play before. We did it during COVID. You can do it again. So I would move the game. I like Buffalo in this game. I think they bounce back in a big way. I think Cleveland's bad on defense. Now, the snow gives me a little bit of caution. Is it windy? That's the question. Is the snow going to be on the field? Is it going to be snowing? Is it going to be windy? I mean, that's the whole key in this one.
I think it's probably not going to be snowing during the game. All the snow is going to happen before the game, but it will be windy. And so that's why I like Cleveland +8 as a best bet. Attention on all of Josh Allen's mistakes last week, but what happened to the defense against Minnesota? They had been a really good defense up to that point, holding very good offenses to 21 points or less in every single game. And then they couldn't do it against Minnesota. And they would have won handily if not for that incredible Jefferson catch on 4th and 18. So maybe that plays into whether they would have had a lower total or not in that game. Miami game showed that Cleveland can't fall far behind, or the strong blowout blowout potential because they can't rally back. So if this was a regular game, regular weather, I'd be on the Buffalo side as well. But with that major snow game, all the wind that we expect, I think that favors the Cleveland run game here. I'm taking Cleveland +8 as a best bet because this bet voids if it is moved. So the books, the Caesars book, will void people's bets if it's not played in Buffalo. So I'll get Cleveland +8, and then in contingency, if it moves, the pick is just wiped off for me.
Yeah, I'll take Buffalo in either way. After watching Cleveland's offensive line last week, my God, they were atrocious. They were the worst in the league last week, and that's saying something. They were awful.
Spinning top of the week?
Yes. The tackles were really bad, and they're supposedly good players.
All right. By the way, Jacoby Brissett played in the Snowvertime game in 2017.
By the way, the interception that Josh Allen threw on 4th down, he's right. He was just throwing it in there. You got to put that. But on 3rd down, I tweeted that picture out there, that play out yesterday. He missed Gabe Davis wide open in the middle of the field for a touchdown. Game's over. It's a blowout. It's over. He missed him. He never saw him until it was too late.
Yeah, he was focused on the right. It looked like he.
Well, I think the play is Davis goes under and McKenzie comes underneath him. But he had Davis right away because the safety stayed. Harrison Smith stayed on the left side on a double with Diggs. He was a touchdown. He just missed it.
By the way, what's your 1 to 10? What's your concern on Josh Allen right now?
No, I'm still not concerned. He threw a red zone. The end zone interception he threw was terrible at the end of the game. The other one was fourth. The other one's 4th down. What's the matter with running the ball on 2nd and 2 or 3rd and 2? I mean, there's an idea.
Yeah. No concern for Josh Allen. I have a little concern. Panthers at the Ravens. Ravens coming off their bye. John Harbaugh, 2nd or 3rd best winning percentage, tied with Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. Behind Andy Reid and Marv Levy for best winning percentage after the bye all time. The Ravens -13 here, Pete, with a total of 41 against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, this is a big number, but I just think that the defense is getting in gear for Baltimore. I think that's what we expected to see. I think we're going to see more and more of that. So I think this will be a lower scoring game. And I also think that Baltimore is going to win the game and cover the number. The Carolina is a disaster. I mean, Baker Mayfield, how's his head after banging helmets? Now he's got to play. I mean, he's the happiest bench warmer I've ever seen in my life. I don't get it. They got all mad at me the other day when I was in the studio and I said, we were on the air and I said, if I were Baker, I wouldn't be cheering for my guy who took my job to play well. I'm just not going to do that. Okay, if he does it, I'll shake his hand. Nice job. He did a nice job. And I'm not sitting there hoping he does well. I want to play. I don't want to sit there on the sideline. What are you laughing for? You do the same thing.
I'm like picturing you, like you're like Carson Wentz in the Super Bowl, and you're like, oh God, I hope we lose this game. I don't want to, like, you don't want Nick Foles to win the Super Bowl because you won't get any credit for it.
No, I would. That's different. I mean, I'd still want him to do well. I'm just not going to stand on the sideline and cheer him on. And then deep down inside, I hope he throws 5 interceptions.
You play to win the game.
Yeah.
RJ would cheer for his teammates, by the way.
Oh yeah, like I don't care who gets the credit, just get us some wins. And
well, wouldn't you rather play?
I mean, ideally, but if we're winning games, it doesn't really matter who's playing.
No, it matters. You want to play.
Well,
You want to play. You play to win the game. You play.
Man,
you don't play to win the game. You play to play.
How much money has Chase Daniel?
You play to get paid.
Yeah, how much money has Chase Daniel made in the NFL? Like, give me that job. Like, I'm fine with that. So,
what say you on the Ravens and Panthers?
Yeah, theoretically, Baker Mayfield should move the line toward the Panthers. Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than PJ Walker, but now we see this line is still at 13. Because the offense was terrible with him before. So even though he is an upgrade from PJ Walker, not like this offense suddenly going to be good. Baltimore's defense looked awful early in the year, has improved. Added Roquan Smith, was really great before the bye. But their offense struggled to gain yards in 2 of their last 3. So health of the key players are critical here. Mark Andrews, Gus Edwards. We'll see how the injury report trends for those guys. We know the Ravens don't have much at receiver, so I want them to be able to throw Andrews and Isaiah Likely out there and at least have some threat of a passing game. I think the spread's fair. I think Baltimore probably covers if they want to cover this big spread. I think you fade Carolina scoring at all. I was going to put this in as an under, but it's now dropped to 41. It's just a lean at 41 for me. Also look at Panthers team totals unders because they're just not good offensively.
Yeah, that's a great look. That's a good look on the Panthers team total unders. I mean, I said last week when I looked at it, realized that Carolina was playing Baltimore coming off a bye. And like people are kind of trying to get back in on Carolina, and like they won, they beat Atlanta. People want to like the Panthers for some insane reason, and they're just not a very good football team. They're not good against the run, and Baltimore's going to run all over them coming off a bye. Excuse me. I have the Ravens as the best bet. I think they obliterate the Panthers. I do think for the recreational purposes of the listeners and the people watching on YouTube, that RJ's look at the Panthers team total under maybe a little bit safer, just because, as he points out, if Baltimore wants to cover, they will cover. But there is a chance for Baker to storm through the back door when you're talking about a 13-point spread in an NFL game. But I said I was going to take the Ravens no matter what the spread was, so I am taking the Ravens. Minus 13 is the best bet. The Washington Commanders, fresh off, knocking off the lone undefeated team in the NFL on Monday night, head to Houston, where they are now a 3-point favorite. We have Commanders minus 3.5 at Texans, total 40.5, Pete.
Look, that was one of my best bets was Washington last week. I loved them. I thought they would hang around, division game, way too many points. I didn't think they'd win it, but they hung around, and they had a nice plan. I think the plan's going to be the same here. Run Robinson, take a few shots. The Texans can't stop the run, much like the Eagles. So I'll take Washington. 3.5, the hook bothers me, so I didn't make it a best bet, but I'll take Washington. I'm a little concerned about short week, let down, back out on the road. The Texans are bad. They'll run the ball on them. I think Washington will cover the number.
At 3.5, definite best bet for me on Houston. Definite come down spot after taking down Philly for Washington on a short week. I don't think it should be favored on the road versus anyone, even a team as bad as Houston, which I probably said earlier in the year I was never going to take again. But here we are, plus 3.5. I have to play that points. The Houston offense actually looked good on the road against the Giants in the second half. Overall, they had 6.5 yards per play in the game, so that offense might be getting its feet under itself and playing solid. Washington's D could carry the day with Chase Young backs if that offense isn't up to form. So I just don't trust the Washington offense here. I know that they piled up rushing yards against the Philly, but they still had 3.1 yards per carry, so they weren't efficient in doing it. They were just very successful on third down. Philly couldn't get off the field. Philly had some bad fumbles that flipped the game in that sense, but I don't think Washington played as well as that score indicated. So at 3.5, love Houston. They're best bet. At 3, it's just a lean.
Is this a Taylor Heineke revenge game?
Who knows?
No.
Okay. I threw it at the last minute.
No.
Could not tell you Taylor Heineke's playing career. So
pretty sure he got cut by the Texans at some point. I don't want to go with it either. This is a tough one. Short week, team riding high, pounding the bush lights on the plane. Heineke, now it's like he's no longer sort of playing with house money. He's kind of, like Ron Rivera can say he's not looking over his shoulder, but if he falters, he has a bad game, they're going to go to Carson Wentz. That's the bottom line. They paid a ton for Carson Wentz. Although, worth noting, Carson Wentz currently at 68.7% of the Washington snaps. If he goes over 70% for the season, the third-round pick in 2023 becomes a second-round pick. So some vested interest by the Washington front office and coaching staff to not allow Carson Wentz to get over there. Of course, they want to win first. Nothing here for me, but I would probably lean towards the Texans. Eagles -7 at the Colts, over under 44. Pete, this looks like it is moving towards Indianapolis at -120. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts here. I go back to my run defense, and when I watch the Eagles, they don't stop the run. I think Jonathan Taylor run wild. The Colts played better on the offensive line last week. They're much better with Matt Ryan at quarterback. If I didn't know Matt Ryan was starting at quarterback, I would not have had the Raiders last week. I can tell you that 100% certainty. I think they played better on defense last week. So, look, the Eagles they're another team on a short week, coming off a loss. They'll be focused. They'll win the game, but you're going to give me 7. I'll take it. I'll take Colts best bet.
This was 6.5, yeah, for a big chunk of the week, and now it's popped up to 7. That's why you get the -120. We'll see if it goes back to 6.5. Indy definitely gets an upgrade with Matt Ryan back at quarterback, but the offense was brutal with him before. They got shut out with Matt Ryan in week 2, so it's not like he's playing amazingly. And him being in, that doesn't fix the offensive line, which we've harped about here before. The Vegas defense last in sack rate, so no wonder the offensive line looked better in that game, and Matt Ryan had time to throw. Not going to be the case moving forward. Philly's defense elite versus the pass, one of the best sack rates in the league. even with those defensive line injuries, even with Avonte Maddox hurt at cornerback. I think they have a really good defensive game here against what's been a terrible offense. That Philly loss, like I said, came down to fumbles, no third down stops. So the defensive injury is a factor. We'll see how much the offensive injuries hurt them with Goddard out and AJ Brown. If he's limited in this game, we'll see. But look ahead here was -10.5. I don't think the injuries and that Indy overreaction puts it down to 6.5 where it had been. So I was probably going to put Philly 6.5 in as a pick here at 7. It's just a lean to Philly.
It's pretty crazy that Jim Irsay made Frank Reich bench Matt Ryan, play Sam Ellinger for multiple games, and he hires Jeff Saturday, who has no coaching experience. He's like, yeah, dude, if you want to play Matt Ryan, go for it. Feels very saboteur-like.
It feels very much like he wanted to win that game, like it was a revenge spot for Irsay against Josh McDaniels, which I told you put the money line in.
That's the only one that won.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You were hating me for it, but that's the one that won.
The other two.
Yeah, but you didn't know Matt Ryan was playing, though.
I knew Irsay wanted that revenge, so it was a possibility.
All about the revenge, baby. I think the Colts are massively overrated coming off that win against the Raiders. I mean, it's a prime, like, you got the guy gets fired and you get to play a really bad team, and you have Saturday come in, hype everybody up, get everybody pumped up. This is a comeback spot for them against the Eagles. I would lean towards the Eagles. I don't want to make them a best bet because it is a lot, 7's a ton of points. Certainly the back door is available, but this is a night and day difference between the Eagles and the Raiders. I like the Eagles to cover here. Jets at the Patriots. My. If it isn't a little bit of revenge, Pete, Pat's a little spike game. Pat's -3, over under 38. Looks like the Pats are going to get to 3.5 at some point. It's -115 on Caesars.
Yeah, and look, I anticipate this is not going to be a real high-scoring game. These two offenses are not very good. But the last time Zach Wilson played New England, he was dreadful. I mean, he was awful that day. And remember, there was actually talk, should they sit him down? Should they keep him playing? He's bounced back and played better, but I'm going to take the Patriots at home. I think Belichick against Zach Wilson, mismatch. They won't blow him out. They'll hang around. The Jets defense will keep him in the game, but I'll take New England minus the points. Probably win by 6 or 7, so I'll make it a best bet.
This game was Patriots at Jets in week 8, and Patriots were 3-point favorites there, covered pretty easily, despite the final score only having them win by 5. They had a late touchdown there for the Jets. So New England just dominated them on the road thanks to those bad Wilson picks. He's not any better here. They played one game since then, and they upset the Bills, but it's not like he scored a ton of points for them. The New England offense isn't good either, obviously, with its total. So the urge is to take the points in a low-scoring game. But New England has the coaching edge, especially with 2 weeks to prepare. It's a revenge spot for Bill Belichick. He only beat them by 5 last time around, so he definitely wants to get his revenge and win this one by double digits. So I have New England -3 as a best bet.
I got New England -3 as a best bet too, and I would tell people to get it in before it gets to 3.5. The Patriots are just, I mean, look, I don't think Belichick is out for revenge. He just hates the Jets, man. He likes to beat up on the Jets, and it's a bad mismatch for New York and Zach Wilson against Belichick, who has just given young quarterbacks problems over the course of his career. Am I allowed to put the Pats money line in the revenge parlay?
No, because there's no revenge for him. He quit them.
Fine. We'll take a break. We'll discuss it. And when we come back, the Lions. Will I finally stop taking the Lions against the spread? Spoiler, I won't. Next. Lions at the Giants. The G-men are -3, over under 45. Pete, I need to check this out. Is it possible that it's gonna be like nice in the meadow, like they'll be fine at the Meadowlands, and it's just like dumping snow in Buffalo? They're not that far apart, are they? Maybe
Well, one has lake effect snow, and the other one's pretty far apart.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know know
You don't know
I know
your
my
geography?
Thanksgiving area. I know how to drive around North Carolina around Thanksgiving. I don't know how to do it in New York.
Yeah, they're not that close. So I'm not sure what the weather's going to be like, but I'll take the Giants here. I don't love them. This was a tough game for me because Lions are out on the road back-to-back weeks. They won last week on the road. This is a tougher, this is a Giants team plays hard. They play tough, and RJ always said they're well coached. And so I'll take
they're like 6 hours apart. All right, carry on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll take the Giants minus the points. No best bet here for me either way.
Yeah, in terms of weather, I think the only Buffalo is the one that we're looking at is going to be a severe one. You're going to have some wind in some of these other games, but it's not going to get higher than 15 miles an hour. So probably it looks like at this point. So you don't really have to factor in the weather too much here. I have Giants -3 as a best bet. Detroit won 2 straight, but feels fortunate. Those Green Bay red zone picks that any quarterback not named Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw. Apparently he was the worst quarterback in the league that day. And then you get that pick 6 against Chicago, the worst pick 6 you've ever seen. That was a walk-in thing. Detroit typically doesn't get those. I know some was made about the defensive backs coach being fired, and they have a new guy in there, and that's helping them play better. But those seems like gifts in the last 2 weeks. And the Giants offense doesn't throw picks. Daniel Jones has 2 all year. I think the Giants probably should have won by more against Houston. I know a lot was made about the Houston kept on driving through, and they had good stats, what I was saying earlier. But they couldn't score. They couldn't convert late in the drives. And that's indicative of what the Giants defense has done. Their statistics haven't been that great, but they're great on third down. So I think that they could do that here against Detroit offense. That's just 19th on third down. They could run the ball versus Detroit's defense, not make mistakes, win this game by at least 3. The market looked like it was going to push it toward 2.5. But now who knows where it's going to go. So if you want to wait and try to get 2.5, I'm good with that. But Giants -3 for this podcast is the best bet.
Did you hear what Saquon Barkley's nickname for Daniel Jones is?
What was it?
Vanilla Vic. Nobody finds that amusing. Okay, I thought it was funny. I got the under as a best bet here. I think Saquon Barkley goes nuts. I think the Giants control the clock. I think there won't be a lot of scoring. The total seems a little high in Detroit when they get, they're fine inside the dome, but when you get them outside, sometimes they don't like to score a ton of points. I'll take the under 45 in this game. It's the best bet. Rams at Saints. Saints -3.5. The total of 39 points. What a scorcher.
The Rams are awful no matter who plays quarterback. It does not matter. Their offensive line, we talk about offensive lines, their line is the worst. They've had 9 different lines start, and they all stink. 9 different variations of it, and every one of them has been awful. They have no Cooper Kupp. They have no weapons. I think the Saints at home with their defense will play better in this game. I like the Saints as a best bet. I think New Orleans will cover this number and win by 10.
You're shortchanging Ben Skoranek. You're talking about no weapons for LA. I mean, he's going to carry the offense
Jefferson.
now.
Man, Jefferson's back.
The ghost of Allen Robinson. At 39, even though it's a low total, my leans to the under. New Orleans collapsing. They beat a sick Vegas team, and aside from that, they would have lost 5 straight if they didn't win that game. New Orleans offense has good stats on the season, but awful the last 2 weeks with Dalton at quarterback. Talk about maybe taking him out. They're sticking with him, and they're facing a good defense, even though the Rams offense is terrible. Like Pete's saying, the defense is still pretty solid. New Orleans defense 5th in sack rate, should dominate that bad Rams offensive line. It feels like at least one of these offenses are going to do nothing. So I think under 39, even though it's a low number, is a pretty safe call because whoever gets to 20 wins this game.
I had the under as a best bet. I think the fact that Stafford's in there. What?
You and RJ, you sure you
just
want
a lean? Just a lean for me.
I had it as the best bet. These teams don't score.
No.
They can't do anything on offense. I think the biggest concern is that you get an Aaron Donald strip sack going the other way, or like a Stafford.
Well, that's what's going to happen. You got to hope like heck that the Saints defensive line doesn't just destroy that and turn the ball over and get them short fields and stuff. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it's an under.
Yeah, I think the one thing too is like Stafford was coming off concussion protocol, dealing with some other injuries that seem to be floating around. Like you would think McVay is going to be as cautious as possible to try and not let him just get pummeled by this defensive line. I mean, at some point, do they think about shutting it down?
Well, like I said the other day on one of our shows, I said, if Kupp's out 4 weeks, if it gets to 6, he's not all the way back, just shut him down. What's the point?
Kupp or Stafford?
Kupp.
I mean,
Stafford, the same thing. Same thing.
Like, there's no reason to risk 2023 by letting Stafford just get obliterated behind that offensive line that can't block.
They're still alive now, so you got to play him if you can play him.
Either way, no points scored in this game, I don't think. I'll take the under 39. Wouldn't be surprised if it closed at like 37, honestly. Bears at Falcons. Falcons -3, total of 49. The Bears have 5 straight 230-yard rushing games, the most since 1940. Pete, our research department didn't actually tell us who it was, but you covered the league in 1940. So do you know what the team was?
I would It could have been the Bears back in the day, or the Cardinals,
yeah.
or whoever.
Not necessarily
Evers?
1940. That's just what the Pro Football Reference goes back to. It could be ever. It wasn't necessarily a 1940 team.
But I think when you look at this game, look, the Bears have run the ball and lost 2 games. I mean, for all the excitement about Justin Fields running and doing everything he can, they lost 2 games in a row when he put up monster numbers. I think the Falcons will be rested. They'll get a little time off. I like the Falcons. I don't love this game at all. This is a tough game for me, but I'll take the Falcons minus the small number. I don't love the game.
You said the 230 plus thing. Last time 200 plus yards in 5 straight rushing was 1976. So that hasn't happened very often. One recent team came close. The 2018 Ravens in Lamar's first run at quarterback weren't throwing any passing numbers out there, but we're getting 200 rushing yards a game at least, except for they had like 194 one game.
Who was the 76 team? Was it
the Steelers, I believe.
Steelers, I thought so.
Yeah. But it's funny too. You look at those 200 plus rushing yards in 5 straight. It's happened 9 times, and the other 9 teams on their streaks combined for like 48 wins and 4 losses. And the Bears are 1-4 during their streaks. They're the one team that can't get wins, even though they're running the ball. And I guess that's just what happens when you run the ball a lot in 2022 as opposed to 1976. I'm not sure how the Chicago D stops anyone moving forward, but Atlanta's offense coming off a bad day. Atlanta doesn't have a strong home field advantage. I would lean Chicago +3, but they're dealing with some injuries. That's why it's only a lean there. The injuries on the offensive side of the ball have knocked the total down a point to 49. And at that point, I have a best bet over 49. I think both these teams score a bunch.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good look. Pretty good DFS action. I mean, Justin Fields is like single-handedly winning fantasy leagues with these huge runs that he's ripping off. I mean, it's crazy to see. Like, if you picked up Justin Fields, you are like just suddenly alive in whatever league you're in, and he's been extremely helpful. I think he's won the Millie Maker back-to-back weeks. We'll see where he gets.
By the way, real quick on the 76 Steelers, I remember this, but after they lost a couple games in a row, this is what the defense did the rest of the way. Ready? 6, none, 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 3, 16, 3, none, none. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shutouts down the stretch.
And that's how you have a team that runs for 200 every game. is by doing that.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
It was one of the great defensive teams ever, and they had to be because they were limited on offense throwing the ball that year. But
fond memories. I was -5.
I was 16.
Somebody who was it texted? Somebody texted me. It was like, "How old do you think Pete is?" I won't tell you what they said. 75.
I don't care.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
75. Give me a break.
By the way, Justin Fields, 92.1 fantasy points in 2 losses, the most since 1970. That's a fun fact for you right there. By the way, possible revenge game. Fields passed over by the Falcons and from Atlanta.
No.
You know what?
You're struggling to find him.
I really don't even care if we get him. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm just trying to fight my way through this thing. 49ers -8 at the Cardinals, over under 43.5. We mentioned, Pete, of course, the 49ers do look like a team that are starting to figure it out. Jimmy G playing some good football.
They are playing good football. And, the one thing about them now, though, is who doesn't eat each week, because Debo didn't, Kittle didn't, but McCaffrey did, and Elijah Mitchell did, and Ayuk did. And so who doesn't eat? And that's a pleasant problem to have. I think the Cardinals are bad. I don't think they're a good team. Colt McCoy actually played good football last week, made some nice throws. But I'm going to take the Niners, tease them down, lay 2 as part of a teaser. I'll take the Niners down to -2.
And I'm doing that as the first leg of my teaser as well. I think Cardinals, I believe both quarterbacks, as we're talking right now, are practicing for the Cardinals. So it looks like probably going to be Kyler Murray in this game, but I'm not worried about that here. San Francisco's offense, 4th in pass yards per play. Now they have a dangerous 2-headed running back attack to add to that. San Francisco's defense, 2nd in yards per play overall, 1st in rush yards per play by a mile, but also 3rd in sack rate. So defensively, I think they'll shut down whatever Arizona's trying to do with that offense that's last in pass yards per play with a banged up offensive line. It's been banged up all year. Arizona Arizona's defense will have to have another big game like they had versus the Rams. But with this offense evolving, I don't know that they could do that, especially when they don't really have one thing they do well defensively. They just need to have those games where come together and play a bad offense, and that's not what San Francisco is. So I had the line as San Francisco 6.5 on a neutral. So I think 8 is a little bit inflated, even though I didn't want to play the Cardinals at all. So I'm like Pete, I'm teasing it down to -2 as part of a teaser.
Kind of wish I thought of the teaser idea instead of just taking San Francisco -8, which is what I did. But when you look at the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, even if he plays, hamstring injury, hard to imagine that he's extremely mobile in this game. San Francisco's defense, outstanding, and they're going to pound the football against Arizona. I think they run up the score and win handily. They do have, I mean, they got too many mouths to feed. It's a good problem to have, but all these guys are sort of on board. You know, Debo got paid. McCaffrey's coming in and been like a model teammate to nobody's surprise. And Jimmy G starting to cook a little bit. Maybe gives a real conundrum for the 49ers this offseason, potentially, if he takes them that deep into the playoffs. Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos -2.5, over to 41.5. I believe Nathaniel Hackett said it worse, Pete, when he said somebody has to win this game, which is just the type of confidence you want oozing out of your head coach.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the Raiders as the best bet. I think the Denver offense it's amazing how bad. Do we talk about a bad offensive line? Russell Wilson was maimed last week, and he can move a little bit. It was incredible. They had 5 sacks without Jeffrey Simmons and Bud Dupree, and it was and you know what? He moved away from about 5 others. I think their line is a problem. I think Crosby will have a field day in this game. They will limit the offense. I don't love the Raiders offense either, but I will take the Raiders minus the points in this one. I mean, plus the points in this one.
And Wilson holds the ball way too long too. That's a problem.
He
too.
does.
You got to get rid of the ball if you have a bad offensive line, and he's making as many problems for himself as everyone else is doing on that offense. But Vegas is horrendous. You know, I don't want to back them, but this Denver offense can't be laying points against anybody. I'm on the Pete side here, although I made it the second leg of my teaser, get it to +8.5 or with Vegas because, you know, another low total game. Broncos not scoring a ton. Love having extra points in the bag. It worked last week when they lost by 7. When I believe I either teased them or teased the other team. I can't remember what it was, but that came through just barely. Tennessee's defense decimated last week, like you said, but Wilson completing 50% of his passes, 4.3 yards per play, holds on to the ball too long. All these Denver games are low scoring, so love teasing it here.
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like Denver's problems on offense are kind of exactly what Pete Carroll described. The issues that Geno Smith is not having this year, which, you know, I mean, you do the correlation there. I agree with you. You can't lay 3 points with the Broncos. They're a bad football team. It is up to 3 now, -120, +3, -120 on Caesars would lean towards the Raiders getting the points.
We had it at 2.5 though, didn't we?
Yeah.
I wish it was 3, but
Cowboys -1.5 at the Vikings. The Vikings have 1 loss in the season. They're a dog at home. Stinky line, Pete. Over under 47.5 here.
Yeah, this line smells. Did somebody alert the books that they've told Kirk Cousins it's a big game or something? I mean, what is this? I mean, what this line is bad. And I think I'm going to take the Vikings in the second part of my teaser to make it 7.5. So I have the 49ers -2, the Vikings +7.5 as my teaser. And I think this line, I wanted to take the Vikings. I'm a little scared off by the line a little bit. But I think they'll hang around in the game no matter if they win or lose it. So I'm going to take Minnesota as the second part of my teaser.
Yeah, I think it's a solid teaser play. I think my power ratings have this line at Minnesota -1, so I should be on the Minnesota side too. I just think it's a come down spot for them after stealing a win from Buffalo with that wild fourth quarter. And Dallas defense had a wake up call after that ugly showing in Green Bay at the end of the game. And I think they'll get back to it here, although they typically have been a lot better at home than on the road. So maybe it's just a thing. I think Dallas pass game had success against Minnesota. Minnesota's pass defense 29th in yards per play. Dallas defense struggles against the run, but Minnesota is 25th in rush attempts, despite their 8-1 record. You figure a team that's winning every week should run the ball a lot to seal away those wins. They're just not running the ball that much. So I don't know if they're going to take advantage of Dallas's defensive struggles versus the run as much as they should. So we'll see this game. I think Pick'em is probably the right line, even though I projected it Minnesota -1. Slight value on the Minnesota side if I was going to play it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a sucker here. I took the Vikings +1.5 at home. It's stinky. But if you're going to give me, like the Vikings are a good team. And it's not in prime time. Just don't tell Kirk Cousins it's a big game.
Right.
Don't tell Rick Spielman either.
Oh, no.
I'll take the Vikings.
RJ said it. RJ said it the other day in a green room, and you would have thought that Rick was going to stare daggers down him.
But it's because he threw a pick, and it was like when the wind and everything picked up, and the elements picked up. So it's like, okay, then it's like he played well at the rest of that game. So it's like he could have shoved it back.
One more bad pick though, because
we could have shoved it back in my face. Like he played really well for the rest of the game, and I'm like, after the weather cooled down after like 10 minutes, I was like, oh, okay, now he looks fine. I think it was just
believe me, RJ. He thought about it.
Yeah, well, he definitely has the standing to throw anything in my face with his position.
No, he doesn't. I give him crap about it all the time.
I love that you're like constantly badgering like former Vikings GM Rick Spielman about like Kirk Cousins. Just like he's like, oh, this is a big game because of this. He's like, no, but like his like defense is like, no, it's not a big game. It's like, no, that's a problem. If you have to say it's not a big game, Kirk will be fine.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's get through just two more. Short slate this week. Bengals at Steelers. Steelers minus 3.5. Over under 41.
It's not minus 3.5. The Bengals are minus 3.5.
Excuse me, the Bengals are minus 3.5. I read that.
We had it written down. Yeah, I like the Bengals in this spot. I think coming off the bye, the Steelers have played better. I got to give credit with T.J. Watt, their better defense. But remember, they beat the Bengals. The Bengals were a disaster when they lost them the first time. This time around, they're much better on offense. I think that shows up here. I'll take the Bengals minus the 3.5. Not a best bet for me, but I will take the Bengals.
I like Pittsburgh earlier in the week when the line was bigger. It's been coming down. I think people are starting to believe in this Pittsburgh defense with TJ Watt healthy. They held New Orleans to 4.1 yards per play. I love fading the Cincinnati offense versus good pass rushes. It worked with the Cleveland game, even though overall I thought Cincy's a better team than Cleveland. But you just get those pass rushers in there, then they can just destroy that Cincy offensive line. I think that might happen here. Pittsburgh's offense, though, not great. But Cincy's defense, 29th in sack rate, so maybe Pickett has a little more time to throw. The DJ Reader's expected back. That should help the pass rush in addition to being as good as he is against the run. This good Pittsburgh home field advantage, I think the line should be, 3.5, 4 at the most. So that's why I liked it earlier in the week when Pittsburgh was catching 5. I still kind of lean Pittsburgh here, but I think all the value's gone. So I think this is where the number should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would lean towards getting the points at home as well. With the improved defensive play by the Steelers, but no, thank you. I mean, generally speaking, in a lot of these AFC North games, if you're getting 3.5 at the home team, you feel pretty good that it could end up being decided by a field goal. Certainly Pittsburgh's offense not as robust as it has been in years past. Chiefs at Chargers. Chiefs minus 5.5, a total of 50. That's actually climbed up to 51. And on Caesars, that line is up to 6, Pete.
Well, I'm going to take the Chiefs here. I think this is the end of the division as we know it. The SEC of the NFL will be decided with 7 weeks to go. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think the Chargers are bad in terms of their scheme. It's a terrible scheme. Now he doesn't have receivers outside, so I get it. But they got to be better than what they are throwing the football. He can still throw it down the field. They just don't. So I think I'm going to take the Chiefs here minus the points. I think Mahomes lights them up.
And then, they finally might be getting healthier at receiver. It seems like those guys are practicing, have a chance to play. Williams and Keenan Allen.
They still don't throw the ball down the field, even with those guys in the lineup.
Yeah, we've had our talk about the offensive coordinator there. But Kansas City's offense might be down Juju and Mecole Hardman. Neither of them practice on Thursday again. So we'll see how that offense changes. I know that Patrick Mahomes is a great equalizer. He could throw to anyone, so it might not matter. But these two teams play close. And the last time the Chiefs beat the Chargers by 7, Phillip Rivers was quarterback. So I don't know that I want to play against the Chargers catching 6. We have 5.5, so it's only a lean for me on the Chargers at 6. I just think these teams have a history of playing close games. Figure it's a typical game that stays close. Chargers find a way to cover, even though the Chiefs are the much better team.
Yeah, I would. They do play close. I lean Chiefs here just because I think the Chiefs sort of smell blood in the water, not only with the division, but kind of the AFC as a whole, where Buffalo losing to Minnesota. Josh Allen's kind of banged up. They lost to the Bills earlier in the season, but they know you got to win this game and the division's over. I mean, you're wrapping it up by Thanksgiving, and you could even get in a spot where you clinch the 1 seed way earlier than you thought would be possible.
Right? If they win this one, the division is definitely done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
They'll have 3 on LA, and then they'll have the tiebreaker on LA. So they'll have 3.5 essentially on LA.
Right. It's basically done.
Because they'd be
the other two teams are terrible.
The Chargers would be 5-5. Yeah, it'd be over. I mean, what a disappointment this division's been.
Terrible.
I mean, all that hype all offseason, not delivering.
And I think
what about the total of this game?
Yeah, 51. I mean, I was kind of leaning to the under because of those injuries for the Kansas City offensive, weapons. And when you get these repeat divisional games, I think the
Repeat
games tend to
divisional
go a little, they
Yeah.
tend to go under typically in these divisional repeat games. So I was leaning to the under there. I'm surprised it's went up a point. So maybe I have a bad read there and people think there's going to be a lot of scoring here, but I just think under is probably the way to go.
Well, it does seem like sometimes when the Chiefs get in that second half game script, Andy Reid can, pound the ball and they start to, really use a ton of clock. But then the Chargers are sort of like they'll get vertical when they're down like big and need to. Like that's the only time they actually utilize like Justin Herbert's best skill set. So we've seen that sometimes in these Chargers Chiefs games where KC will get a lead and Herbert will start throwing down the field. If he's got his receivers, maybe that's why the total's creeped up. But yeah, I mean, I think if KC gets a lead, I mean, certainly they're going to just chomp clock. I mean, that's what they're very good at in that second half. So I wouldn't want to take the under because you could see it, this game explode, but I would lean Chiefs here. No best bet. Any look aheads, RJ?
Yeah, I keep going back to Pittsburgh on these look-ahead lines. And next week, they're at Indianapolis. They're 3-point underdogs at Indianapolis. Indy could be a paper tiger, like I said earlier, since the Vegas defense gets no pressure. If Indy falters offensively this week, I think their stock could plummet. And they're like, oh, it's the same old Colts that we saw earlier, especially going against a team that theoretically should be able to rush the passer with this really, really bad offensive line. A lot of optimism around Pittsburgh with Watt back. Line versus Cincy has dropped. So I think there's more of a chance. People are thinking they could win that one at home. And if they win that one, this game should be closer to pick them than 3. So I think if you want to get ahead of a line move, Pittsburgh +3 is the way to go.
I dig it. All right, the best bets. Pete, no revenge game parlay. I got revenged on some virus. Got revenge on me the first 2 days of the week, and I'm not intrigued in diving into it. Pete's best bets: Colts +7, Saints -3.5, Vikings 49ers teaser, Pats -3, Raiders +2.5, and a Ravens Panthers over. RJ's best bets.
Yeah.
Cleveland +8. There's an asterisk there because if you're betting on Caesars and the game is moved to Detroit or anywhere else other than Buffalo, that bet will be voided and we won't count it against RJ's record. Pats -3, Giants -3, Texans +3.5. Chicago, Atlanta over 49 and a teaser with the Raiders and the 49ers. My best bets: Baltimore -13, ridiculous. The Pats -3, Rams, Saints under 39, Lions, Giants under 45, Vikings +1.5, and the 49ers -8. Let's stay hot this week.
Let's do it.
3 straight weeks of maybe for me, 3 straight weeks of above 500. You guys just stay nuclear hot. Keep getting winners. As always, a pleasure, gentlemen. For Pete, for RJ, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.